today. My name is Nelly Verlinden, and today I will be talking to Lexy Martin about people analytics and 5 best practices for a successful adoption. Lexy is a long-term researcher focusing on people analytics at Visier. And during the next 20 minutes or so, we will be talking about people analytics trends, best practices for successful adoption, and we'll also discuss preparation and tools. And then by the end of the episode, we'll have about 10 minutes where we will be able to answer your questions. This means that if you have any questions during this episode, please share them with us in the comments on LinkedIn. Now, first of all, Lexy, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. Nice to see you, although it's very early for me here in California.
I was going to say, I believe I need to say good morning to you, right?
And good afternoon to you. Thanks for having it a little bit later in your time.
Well, you're welcome. Very happy to have you. So if you're set, then I think we can get this started right away.
Okay.
All right. So Lexy, you have done a lot of research on people analytics over the years. In a few words, could you perhaps share a few of the trends that you are seeing in this space right now?
Yeah, sure. Let me just introduce myself just a wee bit, though, in case people don't know who I am. I'm a really long-time researcher. I think I'm perhaps best known for having started this year a CEDAR HR systems survey that tracked HR technology adoption and the value that it gives to organizations. And I joined Visier 4 years ago and have been really focused on looking at the value that people analytics deliver to organizations and to individuals. And in response to your question, I want to talk a little bit first about value, and then I want to segue into talking about the enablement approaches that I'm seeing organizations taking.
Yes.
So 4 years ago when I joined Visier, I feel so grateful. I have like a laboratory, if you will, of organizations that have adopted people analytics and are getting value from it. And what I initially saw was that they were getting value in adopting a solution that was more cost effective than maybe building a data warehouse and enabling that for people analytics, because it enabled them to scale their reporting and analytics staff and free them to go and do more strategic advanced analytics activities over the years. I think their first areas of getting value was to make HR itself more effective. And with the experience from that, then they turned to addressing business outcomes that were important to the C-level. So there was this kind of journey to value from just adopting the technology to HR effectiveness to achieving business outcomes. And over the last 4 years, I've continued to talk to lots of organizations, kind of seeing their evolution. And now what I'm seeing is that there's very key kind of moments that matter that deliver value from people analytics and workforce planning across the employee life cycle, where you're attracting employees, developing them, retaining them, and then also across key organizational effectiveness activities, optimizing productivity, optimizing the structure of the organization, optimizing planning itself. And behind this trend, this value journey rather, is an implicit trend of organizations moving towards enabling everyone with data to support their workforce decisions, whether that's at an organizational level with the analytics team doing brilliant data science, or individual employees having analytics capability to support themselves. And so along the last 4 years, what I've seen is kind of a second surge of enablement practices. And I'm calling that enablement 2.0.
Yeah.
So, initially they may have started with giving capability to their analytics staff, their reporting staff, then to business leaders, to people managers, and to the HR community, to the HR leaders, to their HR business partners. What I'm seeing now, though, is that they're starting to go deeper with more analytics topics. Example from the Merck Group in Germany, where they started out by enabling 3,500 managers with a certain set of capabilities, and now they're giving them deeper capabilities, providing more analytics topics. Another approach, City of Edmonton, it's in Canada, and for them, what they're doing is they're actually going deeper in the organization. So they started out with their executives and top business leaders, and now they're going all the way down to the supervisory level and delivering insights to them about the safety of their direct reports and whether direct reports are certified and how long it's going to take for that to happen. But I think kind of pervasively through all is this working to provide value to employees too. So it's some, brilliant work being done like at Nokia Nestle, where probably Nokia too, where they're providing capabilities such as career pathing directly to the individual, because managers can't always be available for career coaching. So why not use the rich data they've got on all their employees to show what a potential career path is for each individual employee? I'm sorry, I could rabbit on.
Yeah, that's all right. So if I'm gonna try and make a little bit of a recap of the let's call it trends or developments that you're seeing, then I think we can say that a lot of organizations, they are on this, as you put it beautifully, journey to value, and this is where the moments that matter, they are important. And at the same time, you see the development, organizations try to enable everybody within the organization, rather than having, perhaps on top of having also a specific team that is focusing on people analytics. And then I think the third thing that you say that you see is that there's also organizations who are now actually able to go deeper and to dig deeper into the data and analytics. Have I put that right?
Yes. Will you come work for me? You say it better, faster, more concise.
No, fantastic. So that was, I think, a really great opening question to get a bit of an idea about what's going on in the space right now. And I think you had also some beautiful examples of companies that you've seen working with this. If we are going to take a little bit of a step back right now and go back to organizations that start with people analytics, or that thinking about starting with people analytics, then I think if we are in the preparation phase for them, that there are probably some questions that organizations need to ask themselves first before they dive into the people analytics adoption. Could you perhaps share some of these questions that organizations need to start with?
Yeah, pretty basic questions in some ways. Why do it? What are our business challenges? Do we have key support? How are we going to create adoption? Why do it? Now, more than ever, organizations need people analytics to enable, either a transformation of their business or, to enable being able to do more with less. And so the key question really is, what are our business challenges for which we want to apply business people analytics? It's not just an HR challenge, it's a organizational challenge. Do we need to grow sales? Do we need to improve profitability? Are we going to be able to sustain ourselves during the pandemic? Are we going to be able to transform ourselves to a new future of work? Are we going to have to reskill our talent or acquire? Who should we retain? Who are our top performers? And, how many scenario plans do we need to prepare for? And in terms of key support, I think always having your chief human resource officer at a minimum, perhaps some key business leaders that are having to transform their business model. They need to be tagged as key stakeholders. And do we have the support of some key HR functional leaders and the HR business partner community? Because they're often tasked with enabling their people managers with data to inform their decisions. And then,
Okay, I'm going to also do a quick recap again of that. So obviously, first of all, there's the business challenges that need to be very clear, because it's not just something, of course, that is concerning HR. Then we need to have the support of key stakeholders and decision makers within the organization. And I was also wondering, is there also a part where it's important to think about how are you going to create a mindset in the entire organization that is around data and being data driven and using analytics? Does that also play a role?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that question. That got a little garbled right there.
Oh, sorry. I said, is there also a part where it's important to create a mindset in the entire organization that is around being a data-driven organization, and so you need to create some cultures, maybe too big a word, but is there also a part of thinking about, okay, how are we going to get everybody's mindset into the analytics?
Yeah, that's really an astute question. I think there's some real key practices to successfully enable people analytics, and it starts with a vision that we want to be evidence-based in our decision making, or we want to create a data-driven culture. I saw many of the organizations that we were working with started with that. We want to be data-driven, we want to be insight-led, that being part of their vision.
Yeah.
But I'll go back to, another practice being that they start with addressing key organizational strategies and issues. And, there it's going to just be different for each organization. Right now focused on cost control, improving productivity, under a more positive business as usual environment. How can we grow to meet customer demand, and what's the skills that we need for that?
Yeah.
And what are the talent issues, to address those factors?
Yes, I mean, I imagine upskilling at the moment is really big, right? Or really big challenge for the organization. All right, so if I'm gonna continue, can you hear me still okay?
Yeah, there's just a little bit of a garble going on, so I may have to ask you to repeat.
Yeah, no worries. If we go out of the preparation phase and then we go to the, let's say, adoption of people analytics, which is the topic, of course, of today's episode of our conversation today. First of all, could you perhaps explain what exactly we mean by the adoption of people analytics?
Yeah, well, sure. It's, adoption is that you have people using it. Pretty simple. And there are choices there about, how you want or who you want to have adopting it. We did a survey a couple of years ago where we looked at the leading practices of adoption, and the more advanced organizations, advanced by some criteria like more people within the organization using people analytics, more analytics topics, more data being integrated, more people analytics solutions. And I lost my train of thought a little bit. What we saw was the more successful organizations that actually were creating more value had more widespread adoption. They had more managers using people analytics. So, to enable that kind of adoption, I think there's some practices there that are really key.
All right.
One of them is around getting alignment across stakeholders. So, we most often see HR implementing HR analytics or people analytics or workforce analytics, whatever you're calling it. And they needed to get alignment between HR and finance on key definitions of, Anglo-American. They needed to come to agreement on data elements like headcount or contractor management or diversity or even geographic designations. So they needed to get that alignment between HR and finance just on data element definitions. But there also needs to be alignment between HR and IT, because the more successful people analytics initiatives that deliver the most value to the organization need to be able to tie workforce activities to financial business outcomes, or to the business outcomes of the organization, whatever that might be. So IT typically owns those systems, so they're going to have, have some alignment between HR and IT. We see a lot of organizations create some kind of governance committee, both to address the data element definitions, but also, there's a reason to have governance around requiring that any people analytics activity actually deliver value to the organization, that it have some proposed return on investment. And one of my favorite CHROs is Mark Berry at Indiana Packers in the United States meat processing plant. And he says that any effort, any solution must have a projected return on investment and associated metrics that show that you've successfully achieved a return on investment. And he thinks it's table stakes that any people analytics initiative has a business case for it, and that its impact must be measured. And I'll tell you that the organizations that do that and show that they've succeeded with a people analytics initiative continue to get investment for more advanced analytics capability. So I think it's really important to have that governance around any initiative achieves return on investment.
Yes, definitely. I couldn't agree more on that. So that means that basically we've touched already on, I think, 3 best practices for a successful adoption.
You're counting.
Yes, I am. I'm paying attention. So I think we have the alignment between stakeholders. We have the alignment with IT, which makes definite sense. And then we have the return on investment, or the value that the people analytics project is going to
I'm going to just summarize what was in my mind when I was looking at key practices. Start with a vision, start with addressing key organizational strategies and issues, and how the workforce contributes to those to guide your people analytics initiatives. Achieve alignment, across multiple stakeholders. I think a couple of other best practices are around, and I can go into any of these, how you're going to structure your team, how you're going to go about enabling adoption. And that's one that I've paid a lot of attention to. Some organizations want to enable their HR community and their HR business partners who work with people leaders to enable them to deliver the insights from people analytics. And by that, to kind of implicitly train their people leaders to use people analytics in their decision making. But other organizations, they've got analytics capability throughout the organization, so they actually enable, like, their financial analysts to also understand how to use people analytics, or their engineering managers who already use analytics in some capacity to use analytics for their management of their people instead of just the production of their product. So there's lots of, there's different approaches to enabling adoption.
Yes. Can you perhaps, do you have an example of an organization that chose for the enablement of multiple departments and multiple people in the organization, and not just, for example, the HR department? Do you have an example of how they went about enabling?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Micron, it's an engineering firm. They chose to enable their engineering managers with the ability to, you know, they're already very analytical, and they enabled them with the ability to make more informed decisions in the pay process, in the compensation process. So really speeding that process and really informing it with more data. BBVA, a U.S. bank that's part of a Spanish bank. They've enabled their financial analysts, who already are using analytics to inform their banking activities, and they have been enabled. And you know, and I put that up alongside of the other major activity I see, which is enabling the HR and HR business partner community, with an example from a healthcare system that had the notion of, you need a tool set, you need to improve a mindset, and you need to improve the skill set. So they had the tool set in their people analytics solution. They needed to develop the mindset of their HR business partners to be more strategic and to use data to inform their talent management, strategic consulting with their business leaders. And then they also needed to develop their skill set around people analytics. You know, to enable them to understand how to use data, to develop hypotheses, to tell stories with the data effectively. So tool set, skill set, mindset.
Fantastic. Thank you for the recap, Lexy. And this is also a really nice little bridge to my next question, which is about tools and software. Now, this is, of course, something that you know a lot more about than I do. So when organizations are going to choose software for their people analytics activities, how do they go about choosing that software? Could you tell us what are things to keep in mind?
Yeah. Actually, I know a lot about the Visier solution. Excuse me. I actually want to promote something that AIHR did, excuse me, a while back, which was, I think, a really great article by Eric Van Vulpen on the 9 best tools that actually included everything from Excel. When I used to run this Cedar HR Systems survey, that was the #1 used people analytics solution. I think probably now there are other tools that have superseded that, but Eric's article covered Excel, R, Python, SPSS, Tableau, you know, Power BI. It did include Visier. You know, if you want to know about tools, I think I think that article was a great source. I hope you repost that. Stacia Garr with Red Thread Research. She has a really excellent resource that covers a huge range of people analytics solutions that even goes into various analytics topics, like the tools that are available to address improving diversity and inclusion, which of course a big area of analysis within the United States right now. She's with Red Thread Research. But I think the most important question here on tools is, what's your ultimate goal? Do you want to be evidence-based, data-driven, have a data-driven culture of decision-making for everyone? That's a case where you need a solution that actually can be deployed to everyone, that is easy to use, visually, attractive, that guides the analysis from a key question to getting insights and being able to drill down both on, the follow-on questions, like, do we have a turnover issue? Where is it? What role is it with? Is it in a particular region? Or do you just want to empower your brilliant data scientists to address, specific challenges? And I think there's, different tools for each of those extreme variations.
Yeah.
So the biggest question is, be clear on your ultimate goal.
Yes, it basically circles back to that goal again. And for everybody who's watching, we will make sure to include the article that Lexy just mentioned in the comments on LinkedIn so that you can check out the tools Eric van Vulpen mentions, including Visier. All right, Lexy, that was it from my side. Now we get to the even more exciting part of this episode, which are the questions of the audience. So if you're ready, then we can basically start with those.
I'm excited.
Yes, me too.
Answer.
The first question that I see here is coming from Jose Feray Pinto. I hope I pronounced it well. And the question is, how can you manage competing initiatives in business analytics how can you manage competing initiatives to people analytics initiatives? That is his question.
So I'm assuming the question is around people analytics is competing with other
types of analytics. Yes, but for example,
well, that is a tough one. But the truth is that people analytics addresses almost all those other business challenges. So kind of figure out what's the competing analytics question that an expense is going to have to be made for, and can you figure out whether people analytics can also address that as well? So that might be one way to approach that. And I would like to share with you, if you don't mind, a white paper that we just came out with a couple of weeks ago on the financial impact from people analytics, and it's quite amazing, the dollar value that some organizations have been able to achieve in terms of cost savings or revenue improvement. So maybe take a look at that as a way to kind of understand the opportunity for people analytics. Talked about it earlier, moments that matter across the employee life cycle or organizational effectiveness activities. And I'll tell you, the one that seems to hold the most promise is if you can figure out how to use people analytics to improve productivity. And that's something really important right now. And certainly some of our customers have been able to do that. So maybe it's show the potential for people analytics to either address the business challenge that another analytics solution is being required for, or show the opportunity for improving productivity.
Yes, so we will also share that research that you mentioned. We will also share it in the comments so that everybody can take a look at that. And I think, Lexy, as well, then rather than thinking in terms of competing people analytics with, for instance, business analytics, I think we should think of it as like one integrated way of looking at the business and doing analytics. Or am I wrong?
Yeah, I think, people analytics is ultimately probably going to be a part of an enterprise analytics portfolio. But now for real success, I think it needs to be owned by HR, people managers, but ultimately I think we will have more of an enterprise analytics approach.
Yes. All right. Thanks. I'm gonna quickly continue with the next question. which is, how would you measure sustainability for small and medium enterprises in particular? And it's a question from Kuntal Sisodia.
Can you tell what kind of organization that person's from?
No, I cannot, but I'm guessing.
Well, yeah, I mean, sustainability is one of the more tougher ones, but if I think about the organizations that really just have to sustain themselves, they have some kind of constituent. If it's a city government, a state government, education, they have a constituent. So if you can tie from how people deliver services from the organization to those constituents, I think it's possible to make a case for how people contribute to the success of the constituents.
Okay, thank you. Did you want to add something?
No, that's a tough one.
Yeah,
I think ask that person to get in touch with me. I think I have a case story on that I can maybe share.
Okay, perfect. So I have another question here. It says, you mentioned the importance of tool set, skill set, and mindset. Is there one of these that should be tackled first, or is it a combined approach?
That's a really great question. Of course, coming from an organization that provides a solution that enables everyone, I think, Visier is a good tool set to adopt, and it actually becomes the catalyst for change to create a mindset, and out of that, skill set. But, in my old consultant heart, I would think in some ways, starting with developing that mindset that being evidence-based and data-driven is very important. And so I applaud the consultants out there that are really working to create a, data-driven culture, a mindset around being evidence-based.
Yeah, so perhaps start with the mindset, but very quickly followed by the tools and the skills. Can I put it like that? All right, I have another one here. Let me see. Okay, I have a question here that is for COVID-19 support to organizations for real-time data. What criteria can you put in place in your data system, i.e. number of staff, analysis, if the current organizational structure is still necessary for the bottom line? So I think this question is about, are there any specific things that you put in place for COVID-19 support to organizations?
Yeah. I mean, there's key questions there. Are employees safe? Are they well? So if you can figure out a way or have a tool that helps you determine, are your employees safe from hotspots? Are they in the right working environment? Are they staying well? Then do you have the critical people that you need to continue business as usual? So there's analysis that needs to be done there.
Yeah. Okay. I say let's do a couple of more because there's so many questions coming in, which is fantastic. But I'm going to give you.
Send me the questions. I'm intrigued. You have great questions.
And then we're going to wrap up. But I have a few more for you. So I have a really good one here. I think it's you mentioned providing value to employees. For instance, mapping career paths. Do you have more examples of this, of providing value to employees?
To employees?
Yeah.
Oh boy. One of my colleagues, Jan Schwartz, and I, who at the time was living in London, we decided to, we spend so much time trying to understand what's the value of people analytics for the organization. We wanted to understand what's the value of using people's data, and could we deliver value back to employees? And so we did this paper last year, I guess, on the employee value proposition for people analytics. And we used Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and looked at the different kind of analysis that might be used to ensure that they're secure, they're financially secure, that they're well, that they're engaged. And, career pathing was actually one of the analytic solutions kind of higher up the hierarchy. So there's opportunities for delivering value using analytics lower down the Maslow's hierarchy. And I'll post that paper because it kind of created a framework for thinking through how you can provide value to employees.
Okay, fantastic. Sounds like a really good resource. I have another question here. I just saw it. Let me see. Oh, yes, here it is. Do you have any practical approaches in developing the analytical mindset of an HR team? And that's a question from Owusu Bowen.
Thank you. Also, practical ways to develop the mindset.
Perhaps that you've seen in organizations that you've witnessed?
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question. I'm almost stumped in that. There are so many good consultants out there that are doing work around creating a culture of making decisions with data. I think of Al Adamson, Max Bloomberg, David Green, all of whom really write. I mean, it's almost a question that was answered so long ago that I don't remember what the answer is anymore. But there's, again, I keep coming back to, we've seen so much value from using analytics to address business issues. I mean, like the topic of diversity and inclusion, for example, 15 plus years ago, Catalyst showed that organizations that had female leaders actually outperformed those that didn't. So they used data to show that an organization could be better. So it began to create the mindset around using analytics to show that certain practices deliver value. So I think that's maybe where to start, is showing the value from adopting people analytics, or showing the value of adopting people analytics for a specific purpose, and then developing the mindset, based on that evidence. I was on a panel yesterday on the topic of diversity and inclusion, and it's really clear to me that being able to use data to show the reality of what's going on with diversity and inclusion kind of takes the emotion out of the topic. And so, developing that mindset, I think, creates just proof points. I'm not doing a very good job on that one. I'm going to come back to you on that one.
I think you definitely did a really good attempt, to be honest with you. I have one last question, because the questions keep coming in, which is fantastic, but we are running out of time. So the last one that I'd like to ask you is getting stakeholders on board with people analytics when companies start with that is key. Do you perhaps have any tips for getting them on board?
Getting stakeholders on board, well, it probably comes back to that mindset question, unfortunately. Now that's going to be like a hole in my tooth I'm going to have to think about. But, again, it comes back to showing the value that people analytics can deliver to get them on board. And I think, data scientists, analytics staff, reporting staff, HR technology staff need to get out of their milieu and talk to their stakeholders and really understand what their business issues are. And then, use their creativity to apply examples of how people analytics has delivered value to address those, their kind of business issues. So getting alignment with stakeholders, you're going to have to listen to them and then, show how your capability can help them.
Mm. All right. Well, Lexy, I still see a lot of questions, but I
Send them to me.
sorry. Yeah, you can see them in the comments on LinkedIn because they keep coming in. But unfortunately I need to start saying goodbye to you. So for me, a really, really, really big thank you for being here with us today. I have learned a lot, and I think the people who've been watching have learned a lot as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, and I wish you a lovely day in hot California, and then I'm going to say goodbye to you for now.
All right. It was more fun than I thought. You've been great. And I appreciate the questions from everyone, and, sincerely, I will try to get to them and, either try to answer them myself or provide, resources that I've seen that might address your questions.
Yeah,
so thanks. Have a great evening. And now I have to start work.
Well, good luck with that. And seriously, thank you so much, Lexy, for being here. And have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So from me to you as well, thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of AIHR Live. If you would like to learn more about the topics that Lexy and I discussed, then you may want to check out our People Analytics Certificate program. It is a fully online and self-paced program that teaches you all the skills you need to successfully head a people analytics project in your organization and also drive the adoption of people analytics. You can find all the information about our certificate program and how to sign up on our website, AIHR.com. And then from me, once again, thank you so much for watching today, and I hope to see you soon for a new episode of AIHR Live. Thank you and goodbye.